And of course, Team USA basketball, they got to stir up some drama. They got to stir up some drama with Paige Bueckers hitting a shot on Caitlin Clark. They got to stir up some drama, and of course, just setting both of them up to get cooked in the comments. It is what it is.
Team USA basketball dropped new practice footage, and the reaction online was immediate and explosive. Paige Bueckers knocked down a shot over Caitlin Clark during a drill, and judging by the response, you'd think a championship had just been decided. USA basketball absolutely understood what they were doing when they chose to post that clip, intentionally igniting tension between two fan bases that already have zero patience for each other after 5 long months of waiting to see Caitlin return to real competitive basketball action. This is what fans were given. And predictably, the internet completely lost control.
We're not going to act like CC wasn't getting PB to turn over that ball last time like they played 3 times. Last time they played like 3 times. Yeah. Paige Bueckers thought Caitlin Clark was on her team. See, she turned the ball over so much. I hope y'all are monitoring the negative, nasty comments from those.
That leads to an obvious question. Why does a single made basket in a routine practice drill spark this level of chaos? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this reaction says a lot about the current state of basketball fandom today. To recap, Team USA basketball shared practice footage from their training camp in North Carolina, and one specific clip pushed social media into full meltdown territory. Paige Bueckers hit a jumper over Caitlin Clark during what looks like a basic defensive drill, and the response was instant, intense, and wildly overblown. Let's slow this down and clarify what actually occurred. This was a drill, not an isolation matchup, not a competitive scrimmage, not a game situation with stakes attached. It was a standard defensive drill designed to work on positioning and reads. Paige took a shot and made it. Caitlin was defending. That's the entire event. Nothing more, nothing less. But USA basketball knew exactly which moment they were choosing to highlight. They had endless options from that practice session. Caitlin hitting deep threes, Cameron Brink swatting shots, other elite players making impressive plays. Instead, they selected the clip of Paige scoring over Caitlin, fully aware that it would drive engagement, and it worked. The comment section immediately turned into a battleground. Caitlin Clark supporters jumped in instantly to defend her, pointing out that it was a single possession during practice, that Caitlin has been sidelined for 5 months recovering from injury, and that drills don't carry real meaning. On the other side, Paige Bueckers fans reacted like she had just earned Finals MVP, treating one made shot as definitive proof of superiority. What neither side seems willing to accept is that elite players score on each other constantly. That's basketball at the highest level. Great offense meets great defense, and sometimes the shot falls, sometimes it doesn't. One possession during a drill tells you absolutely nothing about who the better player is. But nuance doesn't drive engagement online. Tribal loyalty and hot takes do. That's how we ended up with comments like, Paige is finally excited to win something. A statement that's unnecessarily cruel given Paige's history of serious injuries that prevented her from competing for championships during her college career. We also saw comments such as, Paige thought Caitlin was on her team because she turned the ball over so much, referencing past college matchups where Caitlin's Iowa teams defeated Paige's UConn teams multiple times. The pettiness is extreme, and USA basketball absolutely anticipated it. They understand the fan bases, the rivalries, and the attention that comes from even the illusion of tension between Caitlin and other elite players. What gets buried under all of this manufactured drama is the actual point. Caitlin Clark and Paige Bueckers are both exceptional basketball players at this camp to help Team USA prepare for international competition. They aren't rivals in this context. They're teammates working toward the same objective. Turning every interaction into a referendum on who's better is exhausting. The practice footage showed Caitlin looking strong after 5 months away from competitive basketball. Her movement was sharp, her shooting confident, and her defensive effort noticeable. For someone who missed much of the WNBA season with knee injuries, she looked far more prepared than many expected. One analyst pointed out how impressive it was that Caitlin stayed mentally engaged with the Fever throughout the season despite being unable to play. Sitting out while desperately wanting to compete is a difficult psychological challenge, especially after transitioning directly from an intense college season into the WNBA without a real break, only to be sidelined. Staying connected, supportive, and present speaks volumes about her professionalism. The footage also repeatedly showed Caitlin in defensive stances, actively working on that side of the ball. The label of defensive liability has followed her for years, often unfairly. She isn't an elite defender, but she's also not the turnstile some critics suggest. Her clear focus on defense during Team USA practices shows self-awareness and a willingness to improve. Paige Bueckers' presence at this camp matters too. She's coming off her own injury struggles and is trying to re-establish herself among the game's elite. When Paige first arrived at UConn, the hype was enormous. She was expected to be the next face of women's basketball. Injuries disrupted that path, and by the time she returned healthy, Caitlin Clark had taken over college basketball. That shift wasn't Paige's fault. Injuries happen, but it does create a situation where Paige is working to reclaim some of the spotlight that moved elsewhere. One made shot in practice doesn't accomplish that, but it gives fans something to celebrate and fuels the rivalry narrative that USA Basketball clearly wants to amplify for engagement. The comments predicting that people would make this strange were spot on. Within minutes of the post going live, discussion devolved into pure tribal warfare. Any rational basketball conversation disappeared, replaced by defending your favorite player and tearing down the other. One commenter even said that as a Paige fan, anyone acting like she cooked Caitlin in that clip doesn't understand basketball and is just being weird. That's actually a reasonable take. One practice possession proves nothing. Both players have scored on each other countless times throughout their careers. That's what elite scorers do, even against strong defenders. The note about Paige loving a pump fake is accurate. It's a key part of her game. She's crafty, skilled, and understands how to create space. Caitlin has her own offensive toolkit. The step back three, pull-ups from ridiculous distance, shooting off the dribble from well beyond the arc. Both are dynamic scorers with multiple ways to hurt defenses. The frustrating part is that we finally saw Caitlin competing in real basketball situations after 5 months of waiting, not shooting alone in an empty gym, not working through drills in isolation, actually facing defenders, reading plays, and competing in game-like scenarios. That should have been the headline. Caitlin is back and she looks ready. Instead, the focus became one made shot by Paige and the predictable fanbase chaos that followed. USA Basketball got its engagement, but at the cost of turning what should have been a celebration of elite players working together into manufactured conflict. The footage also included Cameron Brink, Kelsey Plum, Angel Reese, Chelsea Gray slowly working back from injury, and Guju Watkins observing from the sidelines. There are plenty of compelling stories across this camp, but none generate clicks like Caitlin versus Paige, so that's what dominates attention. Someone questioned why Sabrina Ionescu wasn't part of this camp, which is a fair point. She's one of the WNBA's top players and has represented Team USA before. The likely explanation is that USA Basketball is emphasizing youth here, focusing on the next generation who will carry the program forward. That's why names like Caitlin, Paige, Cameron Brink, and Guju Watkins are featured so prominently. The comment about Paige finally being excited to win something was unnecessarily harsh, but it reflects how toxic these fan-driven rivalries have become. Paige's injury history is nothing to mock. Losing years of development and competition is tragic for any athlete, but online culture doesn't reward empathy or perspective. It rewards extremes, and that's how we end up with people dunking on Paige for having one good moment or attacking Caitlin for giving up a basket during a drill. At the end of the day, this entire situation says far more about how we consume sports than it does about anything that actually happened on the court. One made shot in a practice drill became a lightning rod, not because it mattered competitively, but because it fit perfectly into the narratives people were already eager to fight over. USA Basketball understood that dynamic. They knew exactly which clip would spark debate, drive clicks, and dominate timelines. And from a pure engagement standpoint, it worked. But engagement doesn't always equal progress, and it doesn't always reflect reality. What reality showed in that practice footage was something much simpler and far more encouraging. Caitlin Clark is back on the floor after months away from competition, moving well, shooting confidently, and clearly ready to re-enter high-level basketball. Paige Bueckers is healthy, sharp, and continuing to prove why she remains one of the most skilled offensive players in the game. Both things can be true at the same time. One does not invalidate the other. What gets lost when everything turns into a rivalry is appreciation. Appreciation for the fact that women's basketball right now is overflowing with talent. Appreciation for how rare it is to have multiple players capable of carrying a program, not just one. Appreciation for the work it takes to come back from injury, stay mentally engaged, and perform under constant scrutiny. None of that fits neatly into a comment section battle, so it gets ignored. The irony is that the very people arguing the loudest about who's better are often undermining what they claim to support, turning every interaction into a referendum on greatness doesn't elevate the sport, it narrows it. It reduces complex players to talking points and replaces basketball discussion with personal attacks. That kind of discourse might generate clicks, but it doesn't build long-term interest or respect for the game. Team USA's training camp is about preparation, chemistry, and building toward international competition. It's about figuring out how elite players complement each other, not outshine each other. Caitlin Clark and Paige Bueckers are not auditioning against one another in these drills. They're learning how to coexist, how to adapt, and how to contribute to a collective goal. The sooner fans recognize that, the more enjoyable this era of women's basketball becomes. There will be real games soon. There will be real possessions that matter. There will be moments when shots decide outcomes and performances define legacies. A single practice clip is not one of those moments. Treating it like one only cheapens the real competition that's coming. If anything, this moment should remind us how fortunate we are as fans. We get to watch players like Caitlin Clark and Paige Bueckers share the floor, push each other, and raise the overall level of play. We get to see a generation of talent that is deeper, more skilled, and more visible than ever before. That's something to celebrate, not weaponize. So maybe the better question isn't why one shot caused chaos. Maybe it's why we're so quick to turn everything into conflict instead of curiosity. Why we rush to pick sides instead of appreciating growth. Why we confuse engagement with meaning. Because when the games actually start, none of this noise will matter. What will matter is who's ready, who's healthy, who's prepared, and who can perform when it counts. And right now, the footage suggests that Caitlin Clark is back, Paige Bueckers is sharp, and Team USA is stacked with talent from top to bottom. That should be the takeaway. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like the video, subscribe for more honest basketball discussion, and drop your thoughts in the comments. Just try to keep it about the game.